are? Yay!
Hi, hi, hi.
Okay, awesome. I'm so excited to have you. Thank you so much, Robyn Ann, for joining.
I'm excited to be here.
Okay,
Pausing
so
mom mode to
you
be here.
you said what? You're pausing mom mode. Is there such a thing?
Right.
Right?
That
I
part.
won't be surprised if they come knocking on the door like, Mommy!
As you know. Right, as you know. But daddy's trying to keep them away for now.
Right. All right. So let me just jump into your wonderful bio here. So I'm gonna give you a proper introduction, Robyn Ann, because you deserve it. Okay. So Robyn Ann is a peace and productivity coach to women. She is also passionate about courageous lifestyle design. She loves helping ambitious women of faith unlearn overwhelm and unleash overflow, whether in marriage, motherhood, or the marketplace.
Yes.
Robyn Ann also founded Grateful Gains, an elegant e-commerce brand featuring feminine faith planners and gifts. Welcome, Robyn Ann!
Me and this camera, guys. Thank you. I'm so excited
All right.
for this, Janelle.
Huh?
I'm just excited for this.
Oh,
These
me too.
testimonies you've been doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really rich.
Thank you. All right. So I'm going to ask you, Robyn Ann, to share a time where you had to step out on faith.
Yes. So there's so many, right?
Right.
As I was praying through this, I felt reminded or kind of pulled really to because I'm probably ministering to a lot of women right now in this season where I feel like it is the jobs that we are in that man are distracting us and can distract us so much from what God is wanting to do, even from what we want. But a lot of times I know we tend to blame our jobs or our need to work. And I know as God's been ministering to me in that area, he took me back to, this is over 10 years ago. This is probably like over 12 years ago, when it was a similar position. And so I remember I had just graduated college and it was in Gainesville, Florida, University of Florida, go Gators. But to be honest, I did not like Gainesville. When I got there, I was ready to go back home to my family, which is back in South Florida. And I remember Holy Spirit specifically asking me to stay and continue to disciple the young adult women there, the college age women there. And so it was really a wrestler. I cried. It was a whole thing. That's how I know it wasn't me.
Yeah.
But, eventually I gave my yes and I said, okay, God, I'll stay. And so I think as a default, I just ended up just going for a job that I found there. And I remember it was not paying the bills. It was like, I started off minimum wage. I think eventually got bumped up to like $12 an hour. But I found myself in a position where the women I was even called to disciple, I was living with them as roommates, but I'm falling behind on bills. So now I'm like, God, I'm not even being a faithful witness here with these women who you've called me to serve, you've called me to lead, you've called me to model faith for them. And I think it was one of the first times I really had to get like in God's face and say, God, show me what I'm not seeing financially. Because a lot of times, we can be so focused on all the spiritual things. But this was one of the first times I was like, no, God, this faith needs to meet me now practically, because I was, about to get evicted. The car got towed because the brakes were out. Yeah, and I couldn't fix it. And it was pretty crazy. And so, sorry about this camera. So yeah, I remember going to God and really, pressing in to say, okay, God, I think I've been really missing something here, because you called me to stay here in the city. And he's the one who really kind of said back to me, I remember in prayer, like, well, you settled for a job that you thought you could get. You thought that because it was in a small town, You had to just settle for what you saw. And
Right.
he's like, but you forgot who called you. I called you. And so I'm the one who you look to for the job, for what I'm calling you to do. And I remember bawling. And so, needless to say, within a few months, he showed me this opportunity to start traveling, and doing consulting work for the same thing I was doing at that hospital
Okay.
for, like, barely above minimum wage. He showed me, but it was. I remember, like, everyone around me. My mom was like, "No, it's a scam. It's demonic,"
Yeah.
because it was gonna, like, more than quadruple my rate. I was jumping from, like, let's say $15 an hour eventually to, like, 95 an hour.
Wow.
And so everybody was like, no, this is a scam. But I remember having to say, no, God, I know what I prayed and I know what you said to me. And I know this is answered prayer. And I had to choose to step out on faith, even though it felt bigger than me. Like, I was like, why would someone pay me that much
Right.
for, what I felt like was experience I didn't really have in this thing? But they pursued me. They found me on LinkedIn, and thankfully it was a recruiter who God must have sent, because he defended that rate for me, even though others who came after,
Wow.
yeah, they were like, they could tell. There were others who came after who could tell I was new,
Yeah.
ignorant to
Yeah.
that, the field, and were trying to give me like half of that if I'd gone with them. But luckily, I know, like, God sent
Wow.
this recruiter first and gave me so much peace to step out in faith and said, I'll go with you. This is me. This is an opportunity that I'm giving you because I'm the one who's called you to stay in
Wow.
Gainesville to disciple these women, and I'll provide to where you can end up. I ended up now, after I did step out, it was legit. It was just going all around to hospitals in different states who just had a major need for the knowledge I had,
Right.
in that software. And so I remember it was definitely scary. It was one of the first times I think I really left, just went out on my own all across the country, um, solo, no
Yeah.
one else, coming with you, going to all these brands and having to really learn to lead a bunch of people looking at you for answers. But God really came through and answered and turned that testimony around of me thinking that I was now limited because of something he had asked me to do. And I think a
Right.
lot of times for us, we think that because God has asked us to do something that doesn't look like it has the provision
Right.
we think we
Right.
want for ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we think, well, I guess I'll just have to completely, just kind of strip back and settle for less. But I just feel like, the same thing God told me then is, we always have more with God, not less.
Right.
We always have more with God, not less, no matter the season. So even if for a period it may be a pulling back, because God always has those wilderness moments where he calls us away, to not be distracted by everything so he can build us up for the next level. But to really encourage, someone
Yeah.
out there that you always have more with God, not less. And so that was definitely, one of those times where it was a big shift, choosing to step out, um, on faith,
Right.
and go into this corporate position, consulting position that I didn't feel qualified for at all. But
Right.
having to remember it was answered prayer, and that if this opportunity, I just kept saying to God, if you keep opening the doors, I'll keep stepping into it, even though I don't feel qualified. And
Right.
he's definitely been answering, and elevating me all these years.
Right. Yeah, I
So,
think that's so powerful. And I love the fact that you went back to God and said, no, God, you said, and I know you
right,
said that you wanted me
right,
here. So, and I just love that you sought after him as opposed to giving up and saying, you know what, this isn't working out. Let me go back home.
right,
You sought after God and you didn't give up and you allowed him to direct you. And then you found favor because this recruiter was God sent.
favor.
He was
So
God
much
sent.
favor. Yeah, it
Yeah.
really was God sent. I was clueless. I was
Wow.
clueless. Oh my.
That's
But yeah, I had to remember
amazing.
that was answered prayer. No, it really was. And it did allow me, like I said, to stay and do what God did, which is a whole nother testimony. But, I think back then I was struggling with porn and a lot of things that I thought was weird for a woman to struggle with. And I was so quiet about it. But I remember when I stayed and shared that testimony, how many women in that college arena were struggling with that. That
Wow.
ended up, I ended up being able to really walk through what freedom looked like in that. And so it definitely was a God given thing. So yeah, so many faith stories, but that one for sure was a big domino that led to many other faith encounters with God.
That's so
Yeah,
good.
it was
I
it was
love
really
that.
good, and it's encouraging me even now again today, because I feel like it's always us moving from glory to glory with God. And I feel like even again recently, as he's been calling me now as a mom into this new level of focusing on my girls. And again, I thought, oh, I have to just now kind of fall back to less, living on less to be home with them. And he had to remind me, no,
Right.
you always have
No.
more with me,
Yeah.
not less. And so
Yeah.
even if for a season, I call you just to kind of focus on what I'm trying to download into you, and to make sure you're clear on the mission before we run. Never let that belief system of scarcity and lack come in, because you think if you're doing it for God, you have to survive on less.
Yes. We serve
So
a God of abundance, and
a
he wants
God
only
of
to prosper us,
abundance.
right? And so, yeah,
Yes,
I love that.
yes.
I love that. We don't ever have to worry about scarcity with God, because he knows
Right.
what we need before we even could ask for what we need. He
Right.
knows. He already knows, and
Yeah.
he is a God. He's our Jehovah Jireh, our
Right.
provider. And so, I love that. That's so good. All right, so thank you guys for joining. And so, Robyn Ann, for everyone that's watching, or everyone that
Yes.
would watch the replay, if they are afraid to step out on faith, they know God's calling them for more. They know within themselves that they want more out of life. Excuse me, but they're afraid to step out on faith. What would you say to them? Like, how would you encourage them to take that step of faith?
Right. So, one of my favorite verses for sure is Matthew 9:29, because I love that. It's simple. It just says, it was Jesus talking to some blind men who came and, asked if Jesus could heal them, and he healed them. But I always love the phrase Jesus used, which is, according to your faith, let it be done to you. And I just all throughout the gospel, I always see that string where it's always according to the level of faith we bring to God that he will move for us. So whether it was, the man who said, come to my house to heal my daughter, God was like, okay, I'll come. But another one had faith to just say, just send the word. And Jesus just
Yes,
sent the word,
yes,
versus
yes,
someone else said, I'll
yeah.
just need to touch him. And then that brought the healing, even without Jesus knowing she was, being, drawing that from him. So I think just to encourage anyone who is kind of struggling right now with something they know God is asking them to do, or another level that they know they need a breakthrough, that is going to require a different level of faith, a different level of activity, a different level of focus, and seeking God first, is to just remember that what you are seeing is not too much. God will always and can always match your faith. He will always meet you at that level of faith. And so just even meditate on Matthew 9:29, according to your faith, let it be done to you. Because he will meet you at whatever faith you can bring to him. And so many times too, I think on the internet too, is this phrase that says, everything you want is on the other side of fear, of your fears. But I really think it should be everything you desire is on the other side of faith, because when you really tap into how much God will do for those who come to him in faith, like that's the currency of the kingdom.
Right. I
That
took it right out.
is
Yes, I was just gonna say that.
the currency. You bring your belief to God, whatever level it is, and it just always amazes me how much he matches it every time. He will not let your faith supersede what he will do for you. So bring it to him and confidently step out, knowing that God loves to match it. He loves to show up confidently for those who choose to believe in him. He's like, oh no, I will not be outdone. And if you're putting my name on the test, if you're putting me to the test, God's like, I will meet you there. So
I love
yes,
that. I love
meet him
that.
there. Yes. So yeah,
So
that would be my
that's
encouragement.
good. Thank you for sharing that, Robyn Ann. That's amazing. How could people keep in touch with you? How could the viewers stay
how
in
they're
touch.
going to reach me. So
Yeah.
obviously, here on Instagram is where I typically hang out a lot. But also on my website, robynan.com. And if too, you're just wanting something to help you really pinpoint where you feel like your faith and the fruit is not matching up. Like, you're like, God, I believe in you. I'm believing for these things, but you're not seeing the fruit of it. And it's been years where you're not really seeing what you believe he's calling you to. Or you feel like your mind is almost your enemy and not your ally in terms of, what you're wanting to fight for in the spirit realm. Then you can even go to becomehernow.co, and there is what I call my breakthrough blueprint, which I use in any season where I'm starting to feel a bit stuck, or like I'm compromising and like something is not aligned with what God wants to give me. It's a series of questions that always helps me to kind of pinpoint what are, the fears that are speaking too loud, or what are the, what's the future that I'm not clear on that God is really wanting to call me towards right now. Or it's really a really good roadmap of bringing yourself to match and align with what God is wanting to download in you, so that you can work from abundance and not for it.
Right.
So I would definitely encourage anyone to go to becomehernow.co, and you'll be able to get that map. And yeah,
that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem. I'm really, really excited. Yeah. And I just want to, encourage just more of us to just really share your testimony. Like Janelle's testimony of faith stories. I love it because, the word just really assures us we overcome, by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So start with the testimonies that you've had in the past. And I feel like a lot of times the more that we share those, the more we build our own faith.
Yeah, definitely.
To step out for the next level.
Yeah, definitely. I love testimonies. Like they always encourage me. And so I know that your testimony that you shared just encouraged me as well. And so I'm sure it'll encourage everyone else here. I appreciate every one of you guys for joining, and definitely stay in touch with Robyn Ann. Go to becomeher.co to grab her roadmap. That's an awesome piece of material that you really need. And so I'm going to tell you guys, just as God told me, put one foot in front of the other, step out on faith, and trust God for the very next step. All right, I'll see you guys next week, Tuesday, God willing, for another testimony of faith. Thank you so much, Robyn Ann, for joining us.
You're welcome.
Bye, guys.
See you soon.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.